Hey guys, we're a little early here, a couple minutes till 11, but I wanted to go ahead and invite up Lauren and John, who are going to join us today. I hope everybody's enjoying their Friday. If you hear any weird banging in the background, they're building an entire house next door, so I apologize. Hey, John.
Morning.
We're super excited to bring you guys this workshop today. Just some quick housekeeping for those that are already here. There's a chat section on the right side of your screen. Lauren's in there. Lauren and John will sort of be moderating and chatting in that channel today. But you can also ask questions. There's a ask a question poll there at the bottom, button at the bottom that you can sort of type in questions throughout the presentation, and we will stop at the end and do some live question and answer. So please add some stuff in there. And then we'll just wait a couple minutes to till everyone else joins us. Lauren, did you see my request to jump on screen? You can pop on whenever. Hey, there you are. Hi. So I'm just adding a link down here at the bottom as we talk about calls to action. I wanted to make sure everybody knew that this workshop is part of a series. So this is the first in a series of 4 that we're doing. Hi, Chelsea, welcome. If you guys want to say hi in the chat, we'll say hi back. It's hard for us to see who else joins. So there's a button down, I think at the bottom. Maybe you guys should be able to see. There it is. Okay. Just added at the bottom, this little green button. It just says more workshops from Campfire. Hi, Rachel. It says more workshops from Campfire. You guys can click that at any time. That'll take you over to our blog that talks about the rest of the workshops that we're doing. But we're really excited that you guys are here to talk about websites today. We really put together this series thinking about how you all can refine and update your digital brands right now while we're all sort of separate and apart, but we're still wanting to connect and support the brands and the businesses that we're loyal to. And looking at what we have online is a really important part of that process. Hey, Amuda, welcome. Long time no see. Yeah. So just maybe just give it a couple more minutes and just like another minute or so, and we'll dive in. Let us know. Okay. Hi, Meg. Thanks for joining us. All right. So it looks like we've got about 25 folks here with us. So in the interest of keeping this short and being respectful of everybody's time, we'll go ahead and get started. John and Lauren, if you want to pop off, and then we'll bring you guys back for Q&A. And then I'm going to focus my screen up here. All right, cool. So if you guys forget why you're here, we are talking about action-focused websites today. I'm Christy. I'm one of the partners at Campfire Co. Lauren, who was just on, is one of our co-founders, and John, one of our lead designers. They're going to be here hanging out, chatting, and again, like I said before, they'll pop back in for Q&A. In case you guys aren't aware, I wanted to just briefly introduce who Campfire is and kind of like what our background of expertise is in this topic. We're a design studio here in Richmond. We specialize in brand strategy, graphic identities, websites, and interior design for creative businesses. We're about 8 years into our business and probably headquartered in the Fan District, typically, sort of remotely from our homes right now, but wishing we were back together. Our team consists of 6 designers and strategists. We are really passionate about helping brands thrive across all touch points, really with the emphasis on combining and connecting those moments between branding, website, and interior design. And even if you might not know us that well, you may have interacted with some of our brands around town, some of the brands that we've worked with and supported, like Sarah's Vodka. They're doing local delivery right now. High Point Barbershop, the Jasper, the Richmond Experience, Carytown Cupcakes. And most recently, we helped launch the brand and website for the Holly Fund. But let's go ahead and get started. Let's get into the meat of this conversation. We really wanted to talk today about focusing your website on action. And in order to do that, we wanted to define, what does that mean? What does an action-focused website really mean? So we've defined this as an action-focused website has obvious calls to action and makes it easy to take that action. So those are 2 words that we're going to come back to often today as we talk about this, is obvious and easy. I wanted to use the Holly Fund as an example. This is a really recent project that we did, and their website is really action focused. They have their main mission is to provide grants to emergency grants to food service workers in crisis. So they started this organization with the idea that food service employees didn't often have safety nets, and they really needed a fund or something to fall back on if they got themselves in a bind through injury or illness. And shockingly, this website and this brand was conceived months ago, long before we knew the impact that this virus was going to have on our livelihoods right now. But it's been a very topical conversation and need. So we thought it makes sense to talk about today. So the main goal of their website. Yeah.
Sorry. The slides, it's still on the main first slide. Just want to make sure we're flipping through.
Oh, interesting. So you can't see, you're not seeing my slides change?
I'm seeing the correct slides.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure. Thanks. So in Holly Fund, one of the things that we wanted to talk about were sort of the 2 main actions that they are focused on for their site. One being the application, second being making donations. So a big portion of the design of their site is around encouraging those 2 actions. So as we land on the homepage, you can sort of see that we're immediately using that main navigation to hone in on 2 of those actions, apply and donate. We're using that bold red color from their brand. And then we're also using this sort of button style to make it really, really obvious and clear that that is what we want our audience to do. That is immediately followed by a really straightforward and obvious definition of what this organization does and who they are. And then as you scroll a little bit further, we immediately get another call to action, really focusing in on, are you someone who needs help? This is how you get to the application form. We're sort of using a number of different elements here. We're integrating the brand colors, the brand typefaces, and then also elements with this sort of like red halftone border. Basically, all of the things that we've already done to create the brand, we're applying them in a way that is focusing the audience's attention on where we want them to focus. And then as we get into the application page, we move from obvious, we're talking about obvious calls to action. Now we really want to talk about this being an easy thing to do. So with this application page, we've really concentrated some of the most important information that an individual might need about the application right above the application. So you click the apply page and you get to this information that is really concentrated and showing you this is exactly what you need. We're using some brand elements with those brackets to sort of hone your eye in. And then we're also using hierarchy in terms of typefaces with the apply now being very large. You know where you're at. This is the application. And then right below that, the application is actually embedded into the website. So we're not asking our user to download a PDF, to go somewhere else and put something in the mail. We're not asking them to go find an email and email them something. We're saying you can do all of this information right here on our website. You don't have to make any more clicks. You don't have to use another program. You can do everything here. You can fill it out, press send, and you're done. And this really was one click from the homepage. You land on the homepage, you click that apply button, and you've managed to land on this page. And now all you have to do is fill out the application. So it's obvious, but it's also easy. So let's talk about how you all can implement and start to get started with some of these ideas in your own websites. Always, always, always start with goals. If you've ever heard Campfire speak on any topic, basically, this is always where we encourage folks to get started. Having a clear idea of where you want to land will really help you draft that plan to get to that place. So a couple of things that you might consider after you've created your goal, whether that goal is, I want to get hired, I want someone to purchase from me, I want someone to follow my newsletter, I want someone to, join me on social media. Whatever that goal is, write down that goal, and then here are some considerations. What action supports your goal? If you're unsure, let's start thinking backwards, right? So if that goal is, I would like to get hired to do event planning, let's work backwards. What is the thing that happens immediately before you get hired? Someone signs a contract. What happens before that? You have a conversation with them. What happens before that? How did you get connected to them? Was it through a contact form? Did they send you a direct email? Was it a referral through a friend? Did they follow you on social first? Did they follow your newsletter first? There's a process that your potential client goes through to get to the ultimate moment where they either hire you or purchase from you. Think about that, work backwards, and start to see where those action points are happening, and then consider, does that happen on your website, on your social, etc. Is there more than one action you want people to take? You have more than one audience, typically, not just the person who is buying from you or purchasing your services. But there's a couple other audiences. For instance, with the Holly Fund, they have their applicants, which is sort of one of their direct audiences, but they also have a big audience in that funding source. And so making sure that donations is an easy process as well is also really important. Are your actions easy to find? Is the application or the contact form or your newsletter or something like that, is that buried in the middle of a page somewhere? Is that page titled in a way that is obvious, that people understand what it means? Make sure that it's not difficult to find, that you are pushing people to that place and that it's easy and obvious and intuitive. Once a user finds that action, is it easy to take, right? So we talked about that. You're going through the application form. The application form is embedded in the site. I don't have to download a PDF. I don't need Adobe. I don't need to save something. I don't need to go somewhere and have it, signed by someone else. All of that information is on the site. I'm making that action really easy. And then finally, I want you to consider, what do you as the business owner or marketing person or whoever in your company, what is the information that you need from that action? Don't take for granted that you are also part of that process, and the action benefits you as well as benefiting your user. So when you consider your contact form, are you just asking for a subject line and a message? Does that really give you all of the information that you need from someone who's reaching out to you? So consider adding additional inquiries, asking more questions, prompting your user to give you the information that you need from that action. Next step. So you've made your goals and we've thought about the action you need from that goal. Next up, we want you to draw a map. And sometimes we talk about this metaphorically, but this time I actually mean this literally. I want you to grab some markers and draw a map of your website's content. This is a version or sort of an example of the Holly Fund sitemap. We created this one in a design program, but yours does not need to look this pretty. Just want to show you sort of what a sitemap generally looks like. You can do this by hand, just sketch it out on a piece of paper. Start with that main navigation portion at the top, listing out your pages, the names of your pages, and then the key buckets of content under each one of those pages. Begin to highlight where your calls to action are happening. Where are you telling your user to do a thing? And is that thing obvious? Do you have a button there? Is there a link? Are you asking them to do something that is more than just click? Highlight those parts on your sitemap. Think about, do you need to have more of those? Are there holes in there? Are they buried in the middle of the page instead of like at the top or at the bottom? Start to think about that as you draw your sitemap. And then some additional considerations you might have. What is the path to action? As you start to look at those different buckets of content and you start to consider, drawing your eye through that path, what journey does your user have to take to get to where you want them to go? If they start on the home page, where do they go next? How did they get there? Do they have to go back to the navigation and then choose what they want to do next? Or are you telling them, hey, you've read this part, now I think you should read this part? How long is that path to action? Is it too long? Are they going to get tired? Are they going to get bored and go somewhere else? Is it too short? Are you really encouraging them to do something maybe too early? Find that middle ground of the amount of information they need to make it an informed decision or action, but also not making it too hard to do that. Additionally, are there any dead ends in your path? If you get to the bottom of a page of a website and it doesn't tell me anything, I now as a user have to decide what I should do next. And sometimes I think it's okay to do that, but mostly what you really want to do is take away the opportunity for the user to think, you know what, I'm done here, and then clicking off the site. We have a really small window of capturing people's information or capturing people's attention, and we want to make sure that you're just sort of encouraging them to move through the site in a way that you want them to. And then finally, I mentioned this before with your sitemap, but this is a great way to figure out the holes in your site's content for action. After they read a certain bit of information, are they going to have a particular question or want to reach out in a particular way or want to purchase a particular product based on something that they've just read? Make sure that that is super, super accessible in your sitemap. So now we've set some goals and we've drawn our map. And next up, this is the moment to really refine those calls to action. So let's dig into that. When you're beginning to start this process, I would really recommend that you start with the most important areas and pages of your site first. So we're thinking really the first three places you should start are your homepage, your main navigation, which is sort of just that top bar of pages on your site, and then your footer. These are three areas of your site that people are most likely going to come in contact with if they're moving through your website. When you're ready to add a call to action, make sure that you are using heading styles, colors, links, and buttons, all to create hierarchy. What we want to do with the website to our user is help them move through the content. We want to give the opportunity for people who are going to read the content really quickly to immediately scan the page and see what it is they want from the page and find it and be able to click it. But we also want to be able to give additional deeper information for folks who do tend to read all of the content and provide links and additional information and opportunities for them as well. So we do this by creating hierarchy, using different sizes in our heading styles, and then using different action types, whether that is a button or a link. So on this page that you can see for Holly Fund right here, we kind of have two calls to action I'm showcasing. One is right below a section that talks about the board of the Holly Fund, and they wanted to let people know, hey, we would be interested in, inviting more people to join our board if that was something that they were interested in. So that information right there is right below the list of the board, but I'm not using a button. It's sort of a secondary action that I want folks to take. So I think it says, let us know. It's underlined. It's a link. It's the same style of link that we're using in other places. So we're providing a visual cue to our audience that that's the same way we're going to use links throughout the whole site. And it's also in red. Directly below that, you'll see my call to action at the bottom there is very similar to the one that you saw on the home page. So again, we're using consistency in the design to show a visual cue. This is an important section. And then we're making it really easy to read. We're giving them one statement and then a button. It's obvious, it's easy. And then finally, we don't want to forget about our footer, right? People are always going to end up towards the end of the site, and that your footer is a great place to remind people of the important information they need. And I would encourage you to make sure that your footer is including the information that your user needs. So a lot of times folks will go to your footer or your header, your main navigation, to find some of those essential details that they always need, like the address to your location, the hours that you are open, your phone number, your email, kind of that like direct contact information. So make sure that that area of your site is being utilized and reminding folks of the things that they need to know. Okay, so we've gone through those, but I want to, before we wrap up, is do a quick bonus round of things beyond your website that are also very action-oriented and very important. So you might be aware of this, but your website is not the only place that your audience is looking to take action online. There are a lot of other areas, especially now, that our brands live on the internet that are not just our website. We definitely want to focus on our website, and your website really, really should be the main core area where your audience can find the information they need and take the action they need. But there are lots of other channels that we use to talk to and engage with our audiences. So it's important we don't forget those as well. Two quick examples I wanted to talk about were our social media and email. This is such an easy place to overlook, but it's incredibly important. I really think Cirrus Vodka has done an awesome job of sharing who they are and what they want you to do as their follower within that bio statement. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to go somewhere, let's say a restaurant or a retail business, and I pull up their Instagram because it's the easiest thing for me to find. And they don't have an address, they don't have a phone number, and they don't have hours. This is like really, really simple stuff that allows your audience to take the action that you want them to take. So obviously right now, Cirrus Vodka, their tasting room is closed, but they want you to buy online. It's super straightforward. They've listed it right there. They have a link that's easy to understand, /order online. You know exactly where it's going to go. But they've also managed to tell you a teeny bit about themselves and include some brand personality. So bravo, A+, Cirrus, really, really love how that they've managed to get all of that packed into a small place. And then for email signatures are such an easy way to remind people of the information you want them to know. We did a workshop a couple months ago, actually with Rebecca, who I'm showcasing here, and I included a link about it in our email footer. And I think it's one of the biggest ways that we got signups for that workshop is because every single person I emailed got a reminder that we were doing that workshop. But even if you don't have a specific thing to promote that is time sensitive, the basic information in your email signature should let people know who you are and where they can engage with you. So having your email, your phone number, social media, and your website, all of those things, not just listed, but actively linked in your email footer so that I, as someone who's interacting with you via email, can easily click that and go take the action that you want me to take or that I'm looking to take. So these aren't the only places that your brand is online, but they are absolutely ones to not overlook. Definitely make sure, if you haven't checked out your Facebook about in a while or things like that, it's really, really important to consistently across the board make sure that those have accurate information and can connect your audience with the action they are looking to take. Okay, so we've talked about a lot really quickly, and I just wanted to recap some of the main things that we want you guys to learn and to think about when you're considering action. So an action-focused website has obvious calls to action and also makes it easy to take that action. You can start refining your calls to action by defining your goals and the action required to reach those goals. Make a map of your site and identify opportunities for additional calls to action. CTA is just shortened for call to action. And then refine your calls to action using visual cues and other elements of hierarchy. And finally, don't forget to refine and update all of those digital touch points beyond just your website. So that's really all of it in a nutshell. We've gone through that in about 20-ish minutes, which I'm feeling pretty excited about. It's not rocket science, but I do think that it's incredibly important, and it does take a fair amount of sort of focused effort and some ongoing maintenance to really get it right. So now I think I'm going to invite Lauren and John back on screen and would love to hear if you guys have any questions. What about this is hard for you guys? What are you struggling with? What do you want to be doing better? Let us know.
Yeah, Christy, looks like we got one question close to the end. I think it's a great question regarding the content that we went over today. It's from Nolani. She said, the website I'm working on is for a nonprofit community organization. How can I emphasize the donate action or button without looking like I'm begging for money or funds?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think my first step would be that probably a lot of people that are coming to the website, you want to sort of think about your audience first, right? Like who's coming to the website and what action do we want from them? So funders are definitely going to be folks that are going to end up there. I think making the donation buttons obvious. I'm sort of a big fan of kind of using that like button in main navigation feature because it's really obvious. It's right there at the top of the site, making sure maybe it's also in your footer. And then integrating it into, I think, some well-written copy is really how you would achieve that, considering what is it that we're asking for, why are we asking for it, and what kind of stories can we tell our audience that would kind of make them excited to donate. Showcasing where the money is going to or how it's being used, or even case studies of how well your effort has been in the community. One of the things that Holly Fund did recently is they had kind of this fun virtual happy hour where they encouraged everybody to kind of go on social media and share the hashtag and encourage other people to donate. So they kind of created a whole campaign around that. And then we just worked really hard to make sure that the donate page on the site was very simple to use so that you could very easily, you could donate via PayPal, you could donate via credit card, whatever version you wanted to donate, you could do that. I think they maybe even had a text to donate option as well that they set up themselves. But I think it's sort of a combination of copy that is tailored to who you're looking to get donations from, and then also the campaign that you run around that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I would add just a little bit to that is that with all of those, if it's in your copy, there's multiple access points and buttons on your headers, footers, and within your content, is that if raising funds is a critical component to a nonprofit organization. So if people are taking the time to visit your website and read through that content and be there, they're probably considering making a donation to begin with. So you don't have to have that a stigma of like, oh, I need this money to do my mission, even though you do. And then making it seem natural, like you said.
Yeah.
We got one more question from Rebecca. She said, I would like to link my Facebook page in email footers, but there are lots of numbers in the link. Is there a way of making it prettier or shortening the link like facebook.com/mybusiness?
Yeah, I think there are two answers to that. One would be, I'm pretty sure in your settings, maybe you could Google this, but I'm pretty sure in Facebook settings, you can adjust the title of your business page within reason based on if nobody else already has that. But I'm pretty sure that ours is like Campfire or like facebook.com/Campfire Co. So I'm pretty sure there's a way to change that in the profile settings of a Facebook page. And then my second one would be to embed your link instead of just copying and pasting and have that full URL, facebook.com/whatever. Just put follow me on Facebook, highlight that, add a link, and then it goes immediately in there. You see the action. Your audience is going to see that it's the color's changed, it's underlined. They're going to know that's an action. Third option, actually, now just thinking of it, you can add a little icon in there that's like a Facebook icon, and click that and add a link to that image. That will click and go out to Facebook. Those are some couple ways you could sort of get around that URL look in your email signature.
Yeah. Elliot asks, do you have any advice for working with clients who may not have a clear definition of their goals and objectives?
Yeah, we do a lot when we first start with clients to talk about their overall goals for the brand, for their business. We talk a lot about their audiences. I would say kind of really challenging your client in the beginning to ask themselves a lot of questions that maybe they haven't thought of yet, that the website is more than just, a place for information, that it's a place that people are looking to do stuff, and that it has the power to help them as well as help their audience. But yeah, in terms of like struggling with clients who don't have a clear focus, sometimes it can be really nailing into those users. If you start to consider who is on the website, that might help you drill down into, okay, if audience X is here on the website, what is it that they are looking for, and what might they expect to do on the site? And then maybe you can kind of mirror that with what do you hope for them to do, or what do you want to add for them to be able to do?
Yeah. And
John, do you have thoughts about that?
Yeah. It's like, even though it may seem like somebody does not have a clear goal or objective when they're coming to meet with you, even just sitting across from the table and asking that question flat out, like, what are your goals? We can't really move forward until we have defined those. And if it takes us 2 hours of conversation and like fact finding, we will we'll define those goals, and you just stick to 3 or 4 key elements. Because so many times clients will come in the room wanting to move mountains, and you're like, well, we gotta move it rock by rock, and like, let's focus on the 3 most important things or whatever. So really it's a little bit of like design therapy, but focusing that energy is really like just getting them to do that no matter what.
Yeah. And I think too, we have sort of like layers that we do that. We start with initial inquiry where we talk to clients about their goals before we ever even write a proposal. Mm-hmm. And then the next step to that, we have a design questionnaire that we do before a meeting, and then, or before our initial kickoff meeting, where we again ask them these questions about goals and big picture. And then the third thing being the actual kickoff meeting, where we again talk about, so we've like primed them for that conversation multiple times. So that's another way to sort of, if folks are having a hard time with it the first time, maybe by the third time, they're feeling more comfortable.
Yeah. There's lots of repetition, and design is iterative. So each time you come back, the goal becomes a little bit more refined each time, even if you need to begin without starting,
Absolutely.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Taylor asks, thoughts on having a contact form on the home page versus on its own page that the audience arrives through call to actions. Is that too overwhelming? So if your homepage directly just has a contact form.
I think that one depends kind of on how big your site is and how much information your audience might need to engage with before they want to contact you. If you have a really small website, I feel like a fair amount of really small companies these days will just have a one-page website and it's kind of all there. And then maybe towards the end of that, that's your embedded contact form. I think that's fine. Yeah. But if you've got a larger site that maybe requires a little bit more understanding, or your user might want to learn a little bit more about you before they're comfortable contacting you. You just kind of want to think about what that path is. So if your contact form is only on your homepage and they kind of move through that, but then they also want to go to your portfolio first and look at some other things, do we then have to push them back to the homepage to contact you? That might be a little disorienting.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of depends on the size and the path.
Agreed. That's where I think site mapping is super important in those rough stages. The example we showed, like the content for the Holly Fund had to be spread out over multiple pages, and we saw how it was all kind of even, but there was a flow to that site. When you're site mapping and you realize you're stacking things and you just realize you have one long column, this website might be best served as a one-page website, in which I would want my contact page on that page, or like contact form on that page. So that's where that early stage of site mapping is really fun, but also critical.
Yeah, and I think too that could be something that you test. If you want to try that out and see, maybe you get a couple more inquiries that month, and you're like, okay, that's working really well for my audience. So you could potentially, these are all things that you can test out as well.
Certainly.
I think we got 2 more questions?
Yeah. 1.5 questions. Can we get a pet cameo?
Oh man, I don't know where Egret is. She doesn't hang out with me during the day.
Yeah, maybe,
that's my cat.
Yeah, maybe at the end. But Tori's asking, how would you do a CTA for a company who doesn't have an application to apply, but only has an email you have to contact?
I think if I'm understanding that question properly, you're sort of saying you have to email to then apply, maybe is what you're saying. Am I reading that right? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think you could, there's probably more to unpack there.
Yeah.
Or if you want to add to that, we're happy to answer. But I mean, you could do, if it's just a general, if you're saying, oh, we're not an application-based organization, how else would you get in touch with us?
Right.
Would be a general interpretation of that.
Yeah, so let's start with, sorry, let's make sure she didn't, yeah, okay. So let's start with kind of that first version. If your application can't be embedded in your website and someone has to email to inquire about that, I think maybe what I would do is just make sure that contact form, whatever they might be filling out first, that you ask them some additional questions that help you decide if they are a person that should receive that application, right? So if we start to think about that timeline of they email you, then you're going to email them something back, and then they're going to email you something back. Like what are all of those little steps? And is there any way to like condense that process or make that process a little bit more friendly or easier to get around? I think some of us have limitations with what our website can do, or the way that our organizations require that things are done. If they have to fill out a PDF or something like that, is there a way to just make that a little bit easier for them? Maybe that's just where it sends to an email, they get an automatic reply with the application or something where you don't know other person has to be involved in it. It comes very quickly to them. That makes it a little bit easier. If you don't have an application at all and you're just asking about email to inquire, I would again maybe encourage you to consider using some type of contact form that would allow your user to fill something out to give you more information about who they are and what they need, so that you then don't have to do a back and forth email to get all of that information. It basically just saves time, and it saves a little bit of headache so that we're not all kind of managing additional emails. Nobody really loves to do that. So how could you possibly get the most information from your user before you have to do anything?
Yeah,
I think that would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Also, it's a good time to be self-critical and ask, like, if you're taking the time to redesign or start a new design for your website and how you want people to take action on it, is ask yourself whether or not do I need people to email me for the application? Could we rethink that process to make your website work for you?
Yeah.
Be cool, and to do what you were just saying, Christy, and mitigate some of all the back and forth. Yeah. We've got a question from Jennifer. How important is it to have an about or like a founder section of my website? How is it different from the brand story?
I think that can really differ based on what type of company you are and what your audience is looking for from that type of company. I think more and more, I really don't see a downside to talking about the individuals behind a business, right? If you're a small business, one of the things that we have that is different about us than larger corporate organizations is that we have individuals who are doing the everyday stuff that are behind the brand that you get to talk to. You go to Campfire's website, you see our faces, and then you'll have a meeting with us and you'll meet with us. Like, there's no other people involved. And I think that is a benefit to the user. That's something that we like, that we get to be face-to-face with our clients and we get to collaborate with them in person. And so I think showing personalities and people behind brands is something that most audiences want and are interested in. How is it different from the brand story? I think it just kind of depends on how your story fits in with the company. I think sometimes they're intertwined. We don't really talk about a specific origin story of Campfire, unless maybe it's a face-to-face. We, on our website, talk more about Campfire broadly, and then maybe talk a little bit about each of us as individuals. And then if you meet us face-to-face and you want to know a little bit more about our origin story, we'll tell you that. But typically, it's kind of like a nice conversation starter in person, and we kind of focus the website on what are the most essential things that we think folks want to know and need to know. And then, so you can sort of consider, if you have a lot of information on your site and you maybe feel like that's too much or it's overwhelming, you might consider how you can utilize that story on social media. Maybe you do some like Instagram stories or something like that, where you share your personal story in addition to the brand. I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer there. I think it really depends on your users and what they like and what fits on the site.
Yeah. I think even simply like deciding where that section falls in your navigation is a really easy way to tell people what to look at first. Like if you want to showcase a portfolio of work or your services for your business, put that before the about section if that's what you want people to focus on. And
Right.
It's like a really easy touch point where people are actually doing something on your site, like where they're taking action. Is like, am I looking at your services or am I reading about you first? And that's how you can tell how important one thing is over another.
Yeah. I think my main recommendation would be, if you choose to keep both, just be brief. I think we don't have like, if you've got a 3-paragraph long story, that's like a blog post or an Instagram story. I think folks just don't have the attention span to read quite that much in depth, that really focusing and getting, just the highlights and the touch points would be maybe a way to go.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's it for our questions so far.
Awesome.
Those are all really great. I think we touched on every little part of what we talked about today in that too.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. This is the first time we've had the opportunity to do a crowdcast and sort of like this short format. We'd really love your feedback. Maybe I'll send you guys an email and ask you if you have any thoughts. We are doing 3 more workshops within this series right now, and we're maybe hoping to extend it further depending on how much you guys like it. If you want to get in touch with us, our website is campfireandco.com, and you can just head to our contact page. We're also really active on Instagram, and if you want to learn more about the workshops, there's like a green button at the bottom of the screen that just says more workshops from Campfire. You click that, it'll take you over to our blog to teach about it. But thank you guys so much, and maybe we'll see you next Friday.
Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys.
Okay, thanks, everybody.